All right, guys, so we're going to do a quick year-end review of everything I learned while running first revision of the remote-controlled snowblower. We popped a spring early on, so that had to be zip-tied down. We lost one motor here, not because the motor was overpowered or being strained, but because just a bad component. And I upped it to a 250 RPM, which gives that plenty of speed to zing around. I mean, you can always go slow, but if you start going the wrong way and just want to come all the way around, it's nice to be able to go fast. Um, in terms of idling even or dieseling even when it was off, I don't think I'm going to use the remote shut off anymore. I think I'm going to repurpose that extra RC relay, and I'm going to cover over these, and I'm going to make this just operate smoothly, and I'm going to put an electromagnet on there so that, it'll hold it tight. And then when the power goes off, it'll just automatically disengage. That way the spinning augers immediately disengage. It doesn't matter if the engine keeps running or not because it won't be driving anything. That'll be a good safety teacher, I think. Let's see. We've lost 2 keyways. We threw 2 keyways out of those gears over the course of the winter. All the vibration and the constant churning and back and forth and everything just loosened those set screws even after they were Loctited. So now I should have made the key seat shorter, so that way the key never would have had enough room to actually go anywhere. Since I made them long, I just put a hose clamp around it and tightened them down, left the keyway longer the next time. So those won't be going anywhere anymore. Or you could have just welded them in too. Just a little tack would have done it. Let's see, what else? So the linear actuator that moves just the cut height, it's this style here. And, accordion, be able to see just how much play we have in our system now. And, I took actually the second one, and this was the original. I took it apart. And so, the threaded rod that goes up and down here, it goes through a hole and then the bearing, and then there's a gear on the end. And it has kind of a lip so that these are made to, as this is expanding and taking a downward pressure, that larger ring that's part of the threaded shaft is always pushing against, a metal part of the case. So it can raise and it can lower a heavy load without a problem, as long as this is always in compression. As far as it going, contracting and pulling 2 loads together, well, if that happens, then all of that is being pulled against basically just a small little C-clip. So that C-clip breaks, and then you get that much play that I just showed you. So that is the wrong linear actuator style to use for anything that needs a pulling mode. Those are made for compression only. So I put a couple springs on there to try to always keep it in compression because I knew that this was the case, and this one broke as well. I mean, it's a quick fix. You just open it up and put in your C-clip in. It doesn't really do any damage, although it can. So what else? All the electronics and everything were perfect. So you saw it going through. I mean, I abused this, right? Like I made it go through like heavy snowbanks and stuff. So I do have to do those things sometimes, but in terms of what I made it for, like my day-to-day use is like anywhere from 5 inches to, the blower intake is only 16. So realistically, 16 inches is where this kind of maxes out, blower-wise. So speed-wise, it's perfectly geared for that. But I do have heavier tasks that demand, me going through a 2-foot snowbank. So or worse. So I guess what I would do next time around, I didn't want to put a bigger blower on this weight-wise. So I was kind of glad that it was a smaller blower when I found it to stay in sync with the machine weight. Now, what I could do is I could take and extend this up to like the 2-foot or 28-inch mark and put a second set of augers up here. And if you search for the term snow or drift buster, you'll come up with an old like 70s style snowblower that had another set of augers up here that ran off of a chain going down to the main drive. And, its purpose was just to break up any higher drifts so that it could chew them and spit them down into there and go. Now, for those heavier scenarios, when you're going through like that much more snow, now it's no longer geared appropriately. I'd really want to have a half-speed gear. So I'd have to, am I going to gear this down for my daily, everyday use because it's perfect the way that it is for most tasks. But it would be helpful in those scenarios to have a half-speed gear so that I had more torque available to me when going to the heavy stuff. And it would have to operate, I'd have to have like some kind of lever that I could shift between two sets of sprockets. Like I don't exactly, I haven't figured an easy, clean way to do that yet. But it would be a nice feature. It would kind of make things more complicated though, of course. Let's see. Other than that, I don't know. I guess I've been happy with it. Everything's going good. Electronics solid. Batteries gave plenty of life. Oh, one more thought. So those tracks did well. Now you saw the MTD tracks in the previous video and a review that I did of another track unit. I think those tracks would have done better. They have much deeper lugs, probably like 1.5 times, and their the frequency is much more, like it's probably 3 times as many tracks as this thing has. So this is kind of the low end version. I think that other one would give a lot more grip and power. And in the comments and stuff, we also talked about some of the viewers, putting more weight over those treads and stuff. And I think that would be a good route too. I was trying to keep it semi-light so I could roll it around by hand easy or get it up on a trailer if I wanted, or, lift it up for maintenance. So some kind of removable weight, or, being able to add another 100 pounds per side, I think would be, that might even be excessive, but it'd be worth a try. One of my other things that I tried was I filled a tube full of sand and I made a thing to hang it off of hooks on the front end. They kind of went around and then put like a sandbag, 50 pounds or whatever there. And that seemed to add more of the cut force so that it didn't kind of come up on you. But the problem with that is then, if you didn't have enough traction to keep pushing it on, you would just get stuck. And you'd have to back up and keep going at it. And the other thing is if you got into some heavier snow, now you have a bunch of weight hanging off the front. You can just lose all your traction and just get stuck because it doesn't have enough traction for the weight, way out there instead of over the tracks. So I got stuck with that on there. So I'm glad I didn't have that. So in terms of having some kind of wheel or something that could come down in the back to exert more down pressure, the problem with that was, maybe if it was spring loaded, I used hard casters, and the problem is now you can have a point of contact here and a point of contact here as you're going over like uneven surfaces with snow buildup, or where your car drove in, or places where you broke through and were back down to pavement. And that could actually leverage the tracks right up off the ground. So all of a sudden you're either getting barely any traction or no traction at all, because the two low points are keeping the middle up, So I didn't want to have to add like an extra RC channel for, control with a linear actuator to control the downward pressure of a wheel in the back. It could be useful sometimes, yeah, but I want to keep the controls fairly simple. So overall, having to ram the snowbank or something, if it was just too much, in the grand scheme of things, the balance of this was pretty good. Trade-offs always, but build it for the majority use and see if you can get through and make it do the other tasks that may need to be done. And really just accomplished all of that. So one other thing I had happen that I'll mention is, I hit a curb where this kind of moved over. I don't know if it pulled the these are kind of floppy, these end pieces here, and you can see this one bent a little bit. I just bent that out. It was almost touching the blade. So be it a little bit headier. I wish to what I was doing on it. And then the other thing is so you could see, I added some spacers behind there to put this out a little bit more and get it a little bit of more of a bearing surface, because really it was only in about that much, you know, and there was more to be had. So these are just plastic, but that came out one time and was flopping around all around there. So I just spaced those and gave it some more engagement. Also, I had to readjust this bottom cutting lip, probably 3 times total. It must have rammed something and caught like a lip in the pavement and nudged it up, so I wasn't getting a good scrape anymore. So that's just normal making stuff. Yes, you know, a little bit heavier about front end blower unit would have been advisable for the weight and the power that this thing has when it's ramming. Weaving such a short length coming out of there was a little bit of a hassle. You know, it was nice and tidy, you know, because this is extra long. But I should have left just a little bit more so that I had something to hold on to here when I was pulling it out. I also switched over to the quick connectors on both of the motors, which was a good maneuver. So that, like, if I'm doing diagnostics or I'm testing something, you know, maybe I need to power one side but not the other as I'm playing with a stick and it's up on blocks, or whatever the scenario might be. But it's nice to have those what I disconnect. When I was replacing the keyways in there, it was also nice. She'd have what's kind of a maintenance mode, where if I crank this all the way down and jack the front of the tracks up off, then I can just lift with the handles up in the air and put a block underneath the frame. So now the tracks are up in the air all by itself. So the front can jack itself up, and then just a block, one block. And then with this tilted all the way forward, I had plenty of room to get in there and put in a new keyway, and play with the set screws and stuff. And, you know, so you can get in there and do some maintenance with that openness when it's all the way down, which is a nice feature.